Welcome to Tea, Toast, and Theology, all things nourishing, presented by The Table. Find us on the web at the-table.church.
So this week I posted this bulletin on Facebook and in our WhatsApp with the hope that you will get the opportunity to read ahead, right? So that we can have a really good conversation here. How's that? So now you have read it, you have heard it, and so now what do you think? Because these are some very interesting readings, all of them. Amos and Timothy and also the gospel. It's one of those gospel readings that preachers don't know what to do about. Right?
Yep.
So, what do you all think?
Well, and when I think of the Amos and then the gospel, two different approaches to being trustworthy and, fair. Amos is very straightforward. He tells it like it is. This is what you guys are doing, and God is not going to forget this, and you better start thinking about that very seriously and start changing your ways. God, or Jesus rather, in the gospel seems to be asking us more to reflect on what we are and what we are with each other, how we're dealing with our own wealth, our own business approaches. One of the things I'm thinking about is Jesus saying that, honesty and trustworthiness are first shown in small ways. And the question then becomes, what tempts me to be dishonest or untrustworthy at home or at work? Rain and I had this discussion this morning. And I don't like to tell other people's sins, but I know she wouldn't mind me sharing a little bit of what we said based on that idea.
She might watch this later on.
Well, I hope she will. No, she came right away with, yeah. I remember when I worked at the post office and they would do an audit. And so the audit was scary because that would lead up not so much to a firing, but, you get things against you, right? Reprimanded or whatever. And she would have a time when she'd have to show that she had so much money in her till or her box that she kept. And what she would do is go to another worker and say, let me borrow some money from you so I can put in my till, and then when it's over, the audit's over, I'll give it back to you, which she did. So she always got through the audit. And I'm sure what she did wasn't necessarily what others didn't do. For instance, I think about that, at my job at Amazon. You're not allowed to really sit down at all because we're standing and doing things for 10 hours or whatever. But then you can take a break, a bathroom break, let's say. And oftentimes they are looking at how long you're taking for your bathroom break. And if you take longer than that you do, because they have cameras everywhere, they can question you about it. And personally, I could think of it as, judgmental, and how could they give me, a question about how long am I going to be in the bathroom? But when you see other people in the bathroom for long periods of time, not because I'm there long periods, but I'd go, and the sad part is you would only have, for men, only one stall and one urinal. So, and you had to walk from wherever your station was to that bathroom. If you tried to go to another bathroom, you'd have to walk all the way around blocks of rows to get to the other side. Blocks as long as the blocks in New York City, just to show you, right? And then you don't know if you're going to get a stall anyways. So if you wait there, you're thinking, now I'm going to be penalized because I have to wait for this person that's taking too long, and then I'm going to take too long. And I always felt it really, you're there to work. You're getting paid for that, and you really need to do that work for the thing. So, I can take 5 minutes and that's it, great, And I tried to, even if I had to rush and get back, I would do that. But I know a lot of people didn't. So these little things we do sometimes, and I think, this is what tempts me to be dishonest or untrustworthy at times. Some little things that we do, whether it's taking paper clips from our office because we don't want to go out and buy a box, or whatever it is, they're little. But I think those little things can lead to not being trusted, and not being fair in our own lives. And I think that's the question Jesus would want us to ask ourselves. What tempts me to be dishonest or untrustworthy at home or at work in little things? Because how could God then trust me with bigger things?
I have always been confused by the gospel reading. And today, perhaps even more so, because the master came to the head guy came to the master came to his workers and commended him on what he had done. So the only thing I thought today was perhaps those were really people that they weren't going to get any money out of, so he got something. So maybe he was happy because he did that. So that was being shrewd and just recognizing that those people really did things. And, if you got half of what they owed, you were in great shape. But I'm not sure that's right. And there's a lot of people there, so I sit confused.
Anyone else?
When I read the gospel lesson, it's odd when it comes to me. This tax collector, and if we relate that to today's environment, it just reminds me of our crooked politicians that we have.
Yes.
So it's no different today than it was then.
Nobody learns. I got one. So I read these and I said, I really like these because they speak to what I'm thinking, right? Amos says, don't be mean, don't take from those who have less than you. Don't steal from those who have less than you. And even Timothy says, take care of those who have less. Take care of our neighbors, all people. And, even in Luke, don't take care of people. Don't take from people. So I was saying to Chris, these really made sense to me. And he goes, yeah, it's the New Testament. Don't be a jerk. And I was like, okay, that sounds about right. So, that was what we got. We did talk about it, though.
Cool. Anyone else? Yeah.
In addition to not being a jerk, hearing all these again, one thing I kind of take out of it is that God's managing all of us. Not in terms of like micromanaging, like Dennis, if you took a paperclip, the angel's not going to come down at that point. And,
or was altar boy drinking the wine before Mass? Yes. Okay.
But that idea that God is watching, and we are going to be held accountable for everything that we do. So don't hide things. If it's something that is wrong, don't. Take care as a medicine. Take care of people. Put as many checks in the good column as you can.
I was struck by Timothy's first line, that we offer prayers, intercession, and thanksgiving, that be made for everyone. And I think sometimes we forget that. We judge people, but they're still worthy of our prayer. And Chris, what you were saying about, taking the paper clip. I think a good thing to say, that I say to myself sometimes about taking a paper clip or, returning a dime when you're overcharged is, what is my price to be a thief? Mm-hmm. And that kind of helps me to say, well, it's certainly not a paper clip. So maybe that helps.
I think the message that I see for all three is about stinginess. So not sharing what you had. Amos is scolding people for trying to take from people who have less than they do. And then, like Barbara said, don't be stingy with your prayers either, especially for leaders you may not agree with, because I think he goes down that road too. And then the third one, Jesus is sort of saying, the guy on top is kind of crooked, the manager is kind of crooked, and these people can't, this is what humans are. We're not exactly stellar performers, but money is a tool. It's not a thing for you to covet, it's not a thing for you to hoard, it's not a thing for you to keep for yourself. It's a tool of earth that you should be using, along with prayers, to bless other people. So if you use money right, you're using these tools, these trappings of earth correctly, and you're using your prayers in a way to bless other people, you can be trusted with the kingdom afterwards.
Any others?
Excuse me. I remember when I was working, and this goes back a long time ago, that people were taking pens and pencils from the company because they figure, oh, they won't miss it. But what the companies decided to do was put their name on all the, and address and telephone number on the pencils and pens, so they get advertising free, not sort of free, for doing that, for people taking it. They knew they were taking it, so they decided, well, we'll get some advertising from it. I was a little confused with the last one, but I think we do that. I've done it. I'm going to put it that way. We do take things sometimes, the little things that we think, oh, this won't matter. They're a big company. They got lots of money and everything, but we shouldn't. That's God's telling us not to do that, because it could lead to bigger things. I mean, taking, like the typewriter, not typewriter, sorry. I'm dating myself.
You'll be the typewriter at this point.
Yeah, when I was back in the good old days. That, it could lead to something. Well, like taking paper, which people, they have a home on it.
Thank you.
One of the things I think, too, is that we're looking at what's taken, but what about what's given? Because the steward isn't really taking, he's giving to the others a chance to have to pay back less. And then I think back when I was working, with food, let's say McDonald's or one of the food services, and you had your friends, teenagers, come in. They expected that because they knew you would give them a benefit. Maybe give them a free sandwich, right, or give them this. And even when Jan used to work as a, in a restaurant as a maitre d' or whatever, yeah, not that she was looking forward towards it, but I was. Saying, oh, can you bring some food home from there that's left over? Then we won't have to cook tonight, that kind of thing, It's sometimes what you're giving that isn't yours to give, right? That is someone else's. And I think that's more of a challenge, because I think by giving, am I giving of myself, what I have, or am I giving what actually is something that someone else has given to me or has? Or from someone else. Is it really out of my means, not so much out of their means? And I think that's a question I like to think about and reflect on. I think Jesus was asking us to reflect on that too. What do we give to our spiritual life? Are we shortchanging that a lot because we're more busy doing the other parts of our life? Securing our wealth, our job, our kids' future, this and that. Are we spending more of our energy and time there than we are with our spiritual life? I think that would be what Jesus would be raising up in this story for us to question.
This speaks like a guy with a lot of experience. He speaks like with a lot of experience. I'm beginning to wonder about his background.
It's very shady, Charlie.
We're talking a lot today about petty theft and you made clips and all that. I just need to throw this out there as you're praying. We also said some, iffy things about government. I worked for 35 years in government. I just want to share that the line employees did things like back in 20 years ago when there was no more money and they couldn't afford to give us pens and paper and Post-its. People brought their own from home, and every teacher here knows that they do that too, also government employees. So as you're praying for leaders that you may not agree with, realize that there's a lot of people, real caring people, doing jobs in social service, doing jobs in teaching, in those systems that really do care. And they're bringing and giving, not just taking.
I have a question. So the gospel, the last line, right? Hate the one and love the other. Be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth. Where is that line when you need wealth to serve God more in order to give your wealth? If you have your wealth and you're giving it, are you still serving God, or are you serving wealth because you're earning wealth? Like, where is that line between living a comfortable life and still serving God? And is there a line? I mean, are we all supposed to be living the bare minimum and serving God? And so that's where the words of the gospel, do you take them completely literally, or is it figuratively based on how you are the day in the life? And even I had a great conversation with a friend yesterday. We met for breakfast, and we talked about praying and the extremes of our country's divide and how there's far left and far right. What about us in the middle? And she said everybody has a motivation for why they do things. And you cannot hate the person, you can hate the motivation. And so if the motivation is power, if that's their motivation, you can disagree with that, but you can still pray for the person. And that really struck me because I think I was stuck there. So I guess those are two questions.
So I was just thinking about, I get off this exit in Meriden, there's a guy there who is homeless. Him and his father, their house burned down. And the guy's faith is just amazing. He's just always happy, always smiling. I'm gonna build a bus, man. He wants to make a bus and convert it into a camper. And I've seen his father out there with him too. I know he's told me the truth that I think. This guy's always got a smile on his face. The police fined him for being there, made him leave. He had to go somewhere else. I hadn't seen him in a few weeks. I saw him Thursday or Friday, and he looked gone. He hadn't looked like he hadn't eaten in a few days. I had no money, but I was at the store. I got a water, and the clerk always, he's like, "Oh, you can get two for $4." I said, "All right, yeah, I'll take another one because it's a good deal." So I had big water, and I just gave him my other water, and I didn't say, "Here's our water for you." I just handed him the water. We were talking like old friends, and I'm just like, "Just stay strong, man." He's like, "Yep, I'm keeping the faith. I'm keeping the faith." He's smiling, and I'm just sitting there and I'm going, "This is faith. This man." He has right now, he's at the bottom, he has nothing really, but he's always got a good attitude, he's always got a smile on his face. He's been persecuted, the police are fining him. They're fining him, he has no money. How can you fine him? And then I go down the road, 2 bridges down, there's another woman sitting under there, same thing, living under her car. And I'm just amazed at their faith, and the bonds, you build relationships with these people, and my cousin does the same thing. And yes, I do feel good, but when I have nothing, I say a prayer for him. I'll see him, and he'll know I don't have anything. I'm like, "Sorry, brother, I don't have anything today. I don't have any money in my pocket." And he's like, "That's all right. I'll see you next time." But yeah, a lot of these folks are just really good folks with more faith than most people I know, and so I always remember the one part that Jesus says, not only give, but don't make that person feel like you're above them, you're giving them a hand. you know what I mean? Don't make them feel like that. So.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thanks, Al.
We had an experience with my little grandson, 9 years old. It was pouring rain and there was a man on the sidewalk by McDonald's in Milford. So I said to Fred, let's buy him a dinner and we'll come back. We'll give him the dinner. So my grandson got all excited about it. And on the way back, he said, Papa, do you have any money? We should give him money. And that's the right thing to do because that's what Jesus said. So all Pop had in cash was $3. So he took the $3 out and he gave it to him. My grandson was so great, you know, seeing that guy in the rain and wanting to help him. And a lot of times, you know, we'll go to the blessing box and we'll put stuff in the blessing box. And I always say a prayer that the Lord has allowed us to have enough to be able to help those in need. It's very important to us.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Okay.
The last line of the gospel stands out to me. You cannot serve God and wealth. And so it leads me to question, really, what is wealth? You know, sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of the time I find myself caught up in worrying about finances and money, and it really does impact my mood. You know, oh, how much is in the bank account? Will we be able to afford this, that, and the other? And so sometimes I find myself feeling like I am not wealthy, right? But then I sit here and I listen to everyone's perspectives, and I listen to the reading, and it really hit me because what is wealth? Am I not wealthy because I have my children, because I have found a relationship with my husband, and that I have a relationship with my mom and with friends, and I still have a relationship with my dad, even though he's not physically here? Am I not wealthy in those things? So I think I'm wealthy in those things because I serve God, because I wake up every day and I don't just go to work to do the job. I go and think, how can I be God's instrument today? What do people need from me so that I can be helpful to them in their journey of relationship with God? They don't necessarily know that that might be what I'm thinking or how I'm using myself. But if I'm serving God, then I do think I'm wealthy, not necessarily in the monetary sense, but is that where true wealth is? Those were my thoughts.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right, now I'm going to take 40 minutes too.
I'm going to time on your normal sermon. I'm going to
So let me ask you a very simple question. What kind of economic system are we all living in? Capitalism, right?
Yeah.
Right. What is capital? Money, okay? Right. Money, wealth, whatever, okay? Okay. And what is the basic idea behind capitalism? You have capital to do what? Invest. Make more capital. Right? That's the idea behind capitalism. You have money, you want more. You want to make more. You want to make more. You want to make more. You keep going. Money has no frontier. Money has no frontier in a capitalist system. But I'm going to ask you a question that my sociology professor in college asked all of us. Okay? By the way, he didn't last in the college for too long. But let me ask that question, and you will see why. Okay? Because, there are certain things. Most of us don't remember what we did in college, right? But then there are certain questions that are raised or something is said that just stays with you forever because the truth of it is disturbing, right? Where does that money that you invest and then the money that comes as a process of that investment, where does that money come from? Where does the profit come from?
Somebody's loss.
Exactly. Your profit or our profit is actually someone else's loss. But actually, that's not the only thing that happens, okay? Sometimes it is, this is the fun part. This is, I think, why he didn't last in the college, okay? It is true. So wealthy nations do things to ensure that money is flowing towards them. And money, when it doesn't flow towards them, they get very anxious because the whole system is set up for the money to flow towards them. That's the whole idea. If your country is in a trade deficit with another country, you want to do what? Figure out how I'm going to change that balance. Whether you put whatever, right? Whether you put big taxes or you figure out how to bring that whole industry back in here. You do whatever you have to, but you have to bring that wealth back into your system because someone else is moving the wealth away from you and into their system, and they are growing. And that's geopolitics 101, right? All these armies and all these bases and all these conflicts are to make sure that money is flowing in the right direction, which is to me, right? That's the whole idea, right? But then there is another way that money is made. The profit is made. Can anyone think of that? That's that one way that we are also always talking about. Exactly. You got it.
I do
Print.
that on occasion in myself.
Print some more up. Print some more up. Right? It is crazy. But that's exactly what happens. And that's what causes that thing that we are all now aware of. Inflation. What is inflation? Inflation is in that one cycle, people took profits against money that did not exist. So the government printed some more money, right? Right? And that difference is inflation. Why? Because everyone has to feel they're making money. Because if we don't feel that we are better than yesterday, we have this great anxiety, right? That what am I going to do? I'm not making as much as I used to. I need to be making more, right? Because the whole idea of capitalism is you have money and your money should be making more money. More money should be coming in. All the geopolitics is based on that. In fact, now that's the bigger picture. Come down to the smaller picture, right? Interactions are based on that. Our interactions, unfortunately, are based on that, right? How many times people hang out other people because that'll help them, right? How many times people who are doing really well and are about to retire, they say to themselves, you know, once I retire, all of these people are not going to want to keep in touch with me anymore. You know why? Because they were not loving me, they were loving the position I was in so that they could benefit. Right? because of that thing called insecurity, where we want everything to come by towards us. Right? This man in the gospel is doing the same thing. He recognizes that the moment I lose my job, because I'm about to lose it, because the master knows I did not do the right thing with his money. Right? As soon as he realizes he's about to be fired, right? Or as we realize when we lose our position, nobody's going to talk to us anymore. As soon as he realizes that, he says, well, maybe if I do some act of kindness to someone, maybe they will remember me as a kind person and will be nice to me. So he basically takes his master's wealth and does what? He turns around the system of capitalism, right? And he reverses the process. He gives people who don't have more than what they are worth, right? So if they were worth, they were in $100 debt, they said, oh, make it 50. Oh, make it. So they get $50 more, right? Their net worth goes $50 up, higher, right? And he is hoping that these people will remember that. And once I'm gone from this position, maybe, just maybe, they will be nice to me. Right? Now, why is that parable in the gospel? Because here's the thing. I love the question you asked, Amanda. Is there a line which we can draw and say, okay, I can have that much, and beyond that much, maybe it's a problem, right? Is there such line that exists somewhere, right? Okay, here's the beautiful thing. Jesus said over and over, and once he said it very clearly, go sell everything. Go sell everything. If you want to follow me, go sell everything. Give it all up. Right? And we listen to that and we go, yeah. I love you, Jesus. Yeah. Right? Right? For us, it's like, oh, wow. Well, by the way, there are people who take vows of poverty, right? There are people who say, I'm just going to disassociate myself from all wealth and just be serving. And you know what? I have great admiration for anyone who chooses to do that, right? But at the heart of it is that what Jesus is really concerned about? Is Jesus' concern really about wealth and how much money you have or don't have? Is that what his real concern is? Or is he actually concerned about how we are living with each other? Because if we are living with each other, taking every opportunity on how to profit, which leads to someone being at loss, then are we really a part of a process in which there is that big word, justice? Are we really? I remember I made a lot of people very unhappy one day. Well, I do a lot, but once we were having a gathering. I was at Hartford Seminary, and I was asked to go as a guest preacher, And there was this gathering of UCC people, right? United Church of Christ. And this is back in 2007, I think it was. And everybody is concerned about, Osama bin Laden and 9/11. It was, a few years since then. And people were asking questions, and somehow this question of justice came up. And I said to them, I have a very simple question that you should reflect on. A teacher in this country barely, but can afford a roof over their head. Barely, but can afford a means of transportation, a car, right? Why is it that the teacher in Cambodia is on a bicycle? Is their work different there from here? Right? Why is it that in this system a teacher can afford that, whereas, pick any Sri Lanka or pick any country, right? Why is it that the same work does not afford them the same kind of living? There must be something in the system which is making it possible for a teacher to actually have all that. If you talk to that teacher, the teacher is miserable because they're like, I don't make anything. I look at my bank account and say, what's going on? Right? Right? But if you put it all in a global scale, what is going on here? There is extreme injustice. And whether we like it or not, I am a beneficiary of that injustice. I am. Right? Whether I like it or not, I am a beneficiary of that injustice. That is the truth. Right? And the beautiful thing in this gospel is that there is a realization both on the part of the master and that of that manager that we are a part of an unjust system. Isn't that amazing? They are both coming to terms with the fact that there is something unjust about that. And they are both trying to figure out how to remedy that particular situation. And then Jesus says, those who are honest in little will be honest with whatever else is given them. Meaning, if you end up, right? If you end up and every time the Mega Millions goes up to a certain level, if it's below a certain level, let's say below 700 million, I don't play it. I don't want to win 500 million. Who wants to win 500 million? Come on. Unless it's 700 million, come on. Right? Yeah, 2 billion. Okay, 2 billion. Yeah. Okay. You feel more secure than I do. Okay. Right? But then where does my mind go to when I think about that? Oh, I could pay off my house. I could, that's the first thing. Right? I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And then, trust me, I have done this many times. And at the end I say, that's why, God, you don't want me to win. Right? Because my list starts from all my needs, and then it says, oh, maybe if there is anything left over, then maybe Al will go out for a dinner. Right? Right? You see what I'm saying? Right? Wealth doesn't bring to me the idea, okay, what if I take all of it? and plan to do something with it, to do something really radical, right? In some ways that dishonest manager did. And in some ways that the master finally realized, right? The whole idea is that wealth is there, not in itself, not in itself bad, right? Like I remember there was a woman, her name was Phyllis, and you all probably remember her, right? And she had a sense of humor, okay? And she took this big plastic bottle, right? And she printed this thing out, and she put on it, and she said, "The love of money is the root of all evil," which is a verse, right? And then she wrote on it, "Rid yourself of all evil." Right? And she put it in the parish hall. She was like, right? That was her, her way of being funny. But the thing is, it is true. It is the root of all evil because it brings about that injustice. The question really is not how much money or where the line is. The question is, what does it mean to bring about justice in the world? Now, here's where I'm going to shift the gear from just money to how we actually function. And that's where 1 Timothy comes in. Because 1 Timothy often is read and said, we are to be subservient to whatever is above us. Right? So pray for your leaders. Right? Those who rule over you. And it has that tone, and it has that kind of a feeling that you just have to accept whoever is above you. Right? So here's a perspective I'm going to give you today. The fact is that Christian faith is, by nature, a revolution. Right? It completely put the world upside down. It takes wealth, it puts it upside down. It takes all these different concepts and just turns it upside down. Jesus ended up on the cross not because people were so happy with him, but because he challenged the status quo, and people did not like the status quo. And to get a glimpse of what was happening, there's that beautiful story where he goes in and he does something with the pigs, and the pigs go and, right? And you know what? The local people did what? They said, let's throw him off the ledge. Right? And he mysteriously just disappears from amongst the crowd. Right? Why? Because he continuously, wherever he was, he challenged the status quo and turned it upside down. Why? Because he was looking for that same idea which Jeremiah, Isaiah would talk about, that make these hills low and raise up the valleys. Make everything equal and at the same level. Why do we have these conversations? Not because, just we want you to feel like, oh, you're a part of it. Yeah, that's true. But we want to make a point that each and every one has some experience that is worth sharing. Right? Okay, now here's the deal. While it is true that Christianity is essentially a movement that challenges status quo and turns things upside down, Christianity is also a movement not of stupid people. Okay, you know what that means? That we don't go looking for trouble. We don't go around saying, okay, I'm going to go and fight this, and I'm going to go fight this, and I'm going to go fight this. We don't do that. The idea behind this is, listen, there are so many other ways to correct the wrong without getting into a tiff with powerful people. Start from the basics. There is so much you can do in the world. Start from the basics, right? Now, we can be out on the road protesting and raising banners and saying this, that, or the other, or, and this is where the uniqueness of the table comes in, or instead of becoming a part of this voice or that voice that's standing on the streets and going da, 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 we can actually have compassion on people. We can actually take the actions that are needed to bring about that justice and right in the world. That's what we can do. And as we are doing that, we can pray for people that, just like that master in that gospel story, people who matter will actually take notice of what we are doing. And maybe they will have a change of heart. And that we can pray. That we can pray about. You see, I get very concerned when Christian church gets aligned with power. Or when Christian church says, this is how we are going to structure and order the society. And we will use political power to do so. And I don't care if it is coming from the right or the left. Both scare me. Okay? It's scary. Because both are no longer interested in the small actions of doing the thing right and bringing justice into the life of common people. They are just interested in standing on street corners with their big banners and running movements and so on and so forth. Right? And my friends, to that, the Christian response is, pray for them too. Pray for them. Because God may do something good out of that. Pray for them. But as for the call of Jesus, be in the world and be the agent of change. Be the agent of change in a way that actually changes the life of someone. I'll close it here, that when I look at what we are doing on Fridays, I feel really energized. Because we're not making a big deal. We're not, forming some kind of an alliance and saying this or that, or picking up an ideology and endorsing this or endorsing that. We are not doing any of that. And I say thanks be to God that we are not doing any of that. I'll be very honest. My problem was that the system that I was in had lots of words, but when it came to practice, they didn't show the love that they were supposed to be. Right? I said, what was the point of all that? If there isn't the love, right? And that is what Jesus would say, listen, there is no point to that. There's no point to that. Take baby steps. Do the things you have to do. make the change that you need to change. And in that process, you may end up spending 90% of what you make. Not 10% you give. You may end up spending 90% of what you make. Or maybe even 100. In some cases, maybe you may be giving more than what you even have. And by the way, I don't believe in writing a check to a good cause. And you all know that. Hopefully you know that, right? Why? Because that is something we have just sort of said this to ourselves. Right? Oh, we're so good, take my money. Right? No. People in the end don't need money. That family that comes to our Friday nights, it is very clear to me that they don't come there for the food. They come there because we all showed them the love that Jeremiah talks about. That's why they never want to miss it, even when something is going on in their life. They come for that, not for the wealth that we can offer them. And when we begin to have a community made up of people, where people are coming together regardless of their income status, like last week actually, we were standing outside and somehow it came up and I said, I have a friend who is a billionaire and I have a friend who has nothing. And they are both my friends. And it doesn't matter, one has a lot and one has nothing. It's irrelevant, right? Because they are both people that I call my friends, right? And that is the world that God wants us to be in. And knowing that we are not really big. We are all playing our inning. I often remind people, sometimes people get very anxious and very, like, oh, we're going to go do this, do this, do this. And I say to people, listen, we are only playing our inning. That's all. Don't think, 100 years from now, no one will know who was who. But today, if you do the right thing, someone will know. And that is the gospel message. Amen?
Amen.
Thank you for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe.